Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Starship Enterprise. We've got another great show for you here on a Friday. We've got Cal Washington joining us just in time.
How you doing, Hugh?
I'm good. How's it going out there today?
Well, it's another rainy day in paradise, but we're making do.
Well, apparently it's a little nicer, a little further south than where you are.
Yes.
And that's where our guest today is hanging out. We've got
Yes.
Mandy Jacob joining us here, and I'm bringing her in, and she's got her logo behind her, and you guys apparently know each other already, right?
Yeah.
Cal, I mean, do you want to just maybe before we really dive in and get to know Mandy a bit, just sort of tell us how you met her and what has come out of that?
I did an interview with her and Lexi. They have a podcast. Can't remember what it's called. Women diving into the deep hole, rabbit holes, or something along those lines. Big long name.
Light talkers.
What's that?
Light talkers.
Light talkers.
Diving down the rabbit hole. Exactly.
Yeah.
Long name.
And it was really interesting. Like just meeting both of them, but in particular Mandy, because she's she follows the Holy Spirit, and she has gifts, and she can, all these types of things, which is, right up my alley, so to speak. Yeah. And then it turns out that she has this thing with educating kids, etc. That, different. I'll let her explain it, but and so I thought, man, like people gotta get a hold of this, because she can help in a very big way for certain things, and so that's why she's here.
Well, it's I think actually, I stumbled upon that podcast, not the one with you, but the where they all are, and listened to a couple of them, and I didn't see the one with you, so that's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah,
that out later.
They deleted that one.
Oh yeah.
Really? Mandy, is that true?
That is absolutely not true. But honestly, I haven't looked at it because we kind of went into a hiatus when I started this photographic memory school. So I haven't looked at it for a while, Cal. But Cal, we are such old friends that he knows 100 people. But we actually met through Josh Del Sol when we were finding cell towers before 5G was even around. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's how far back we actually do go. So yeah, we've done a few dives down a few different rabbit holes, but this is a fun one. Yeah.
Now, what were you interested in the whole 5G thing for, Mandy, or what you got you interested in?
I mean, yeah, you can hear my accent. I came from South Africa, and I lived through apartheid, and I just wasn't interested in reliving that again. Unfortunately, when COVID came, I said, oh, I'm so blessed. I think I'm the only person in the world, plus lots of ex-South Africans, that we get to live through apartheid all over again. It's just now it's not the color of your skin. It's whether you've been, are we allowed to mention that word? If you've been given the shot or not. Yeah, I'm not quite sure in Canada. I used that word on Instagram because my son was actually vaccine injured. And so when I mentioned that, my channel got taken down. So I'm not quite sure about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're not, unlike in the UK, they're not arresting people in Canada for just talking on the internet yet.
Okay, good to know. I don't need to shut anything down, but yeah.
But there's legislation pending, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but to go back to your question, so I was an activist, and actually what ended up happening was we just started a little local group, and then one of the lawyers, we couldn't afford her, but we had a contact into JFK. And so we grew from this little area to actually we were in 28 states. And this was 8 years ago, like I say, even before 5G. But she ended up, thank God, JFK employed her. And she was the one who did the lawsuit against the FCC, which we won. But of course, nobody knows about that. And so now they, just yesterday, I haven't seen the results. They're going through another route where they're trying to circumpass the local authorities now and just make everything federal. So
Yeah, I think Renette's involved with that.
Yes. So Renette was one of our, yeah, exactly. So we spread, exactly. So she was, and at the time she was mayor. So it was amazing because she could just use our loopholes. I know, Cal, you're amazing with lawful, but my target was legal. And we just find the loopholes and go through disabilities and things like that. But anyway, so that's how we originally came to me, through Josh, Cal.
Yeah.
Now, were you doing something else, were you also dealing with NOLs and different kinds of legal paperwork that you had developed and were making available to people?
Yes, and I've still got that. If anyone, actually, someone contacted me yesterday. We did it differently. I mean, Cal is bull to a red flag. We kind of went the back door. So what we ended up doing was, we give a notice of liability, and then we would strategically find the people that were EMF disabled, and then we'd hold the city liable for any potential hospitalizations and things like that. And so our city worked really well. There's another loophole that you can use where it just boils down to insurance. If you say to them, sure, come in and put up whatever you want, we just need insurance on the cell towers. And I'm sorry, this is, like I said, 8 years in passing, but that's how we did it anyway. And just a city close to us, that mayor was open to that insurance option, and they're pretty good. But that was 8 years ago. So what's happened now is it's so prevalent that people are just putting the antennas up on their own businesses. So that was back in the day when you could limit the city councils, really. Unfortunately, now people are just putting them up because they're getting paid to put them up and all that. Yeah.
Well, have you thought of any strategies to counter that? Because by all accounts, this 5G stuff is just a big problem. Okay,
well, I'm going to say I got pulled out of that, thank God, because I felt like at the time I had a baby who I never saw, and it was complete volunteer work. And I just, this is why so from there I employed that strategy where we were suing the school boards during COVID. So we kind of used that same NOL with the school boards. They were horrific stories. And then from there, I went into politics, and we got some people who dived down the rabbit hole into politics. And then, honestly, it was 8 years of just giving my life. And so I moved into something a lot more happier, which is the Photographic Memory School. So
that's, so what are you doing there? Teaching kids how to have a photographic memory?
Yeah, because it's completely teachable. So I'm kind of paraphrasing it as the education revolution. And now with AI, we really have to, we've been polarized. COVID polarized us, and then now AI is taking us down a deeper route. And I actually trademarked quantum intelligence technology, because I believe the quantum intelligence technology is us. It's not a microchip in your brain. And we did a rollout, which I was expecting to take a year to do this curriculum. And within 10 weeks, I had children from ages 5 to 8. And I was obviously teaching them because I haven't, found teachers that are ready to grapple with this. So I'm a homeschooler, and it's easier to teach a mom than it is to teach a teacher, because I took in the teachers, and the teachers are only worried about gun shooting and everything other than building the brain, right? Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing is taking kids ages 5 to 8 that hadn't started reading, and then within 10 weeks they had known their entire, and I know it sounds crazy, but this is just to tell you that it's true and it works, and the quantum technology is inside of you, because they knew their times tables. They were not just reading, but speed reading. There's a whole methodology of how to teach speed reading, which we teach to adults, but adults have so many problems because we've been phonetically taught. And then, within 10 weeks, we were halfway through the periodic table of elements they had memorized. So, and these are 5 to 8 year olds, so the world is really our oyster if we can harness the photographic memory part. But school doesn't teach that.
Yeah. And I mean, how did you mentioned that adults have problems because they were taught phonetically how to read, right?
Yeah, and so the statistic is like a top-rated English Harvard professor or Oxford professor can only read about 600 words a minute. But then the key of this is, if I don't know, I really believe in Tony Buzan. He teaches adults how to speed read, and he reads upwards of 2,000 to 6,000 words a minute. And that's, he had to retrain his brain. You know, phonetically we sound it out, so it slows us down, and then we repeat it in our mind. Whereas this school, we do only sight words, and we teach them according to that. I'm sure you've gotten that email. Have you ever gotten that email where the middle letters are all scrambled, but the outside and the inside are the same, and yet your brain can read that message perfectly, you know? So that's kind of the fun aspect of exactly how speed reading works. And here I'm preaching to you, but let me tell you, those children blew me out of the water because they had never picked up a book, and they were reading. And some of my books are actually, I also teach Hebrew, and I write like Leonardo da Vinci in those books because we read backwards. And there's a whole theory as to why reading right to left is better for your brain. Because it's the right brain that is responsible for the photographic memory. So those kids were reading backwards, if you want to call it backwards, mirror writing, right? And
that's what Aleister Crowley used to do.
Oh gosh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, do you see? We're onto something. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
English is actually backwards. That's what Leonardo da Vinci was telling in code. You're being taught everything backwards. This is why those certain songs that when you're saying something in forward English, it's saying something in backward English. So that's where Aleister Crowley, everything is backwards. So they've got us all speaking backwards and reading backwards.
Wow. Thank you, guys. I've got an extra bullet in my advantages here for this school. I really didn't know that, but that really goes to prove.
Yeah.
I mean,
the ancient languages, other than ones that go up and down, go from right to left, and we go from left to right.
Well, that's
why the Beatles, you know, when you play something backwards, you can hear something. That it's because it's an actual phenomenon. It's because we are speaking backwards.
I heard that whatever you say, whether you're lying or especially if you're lying, I guess, but if you then play it backwards, you can hear the truth. The truth will come out.
Yes. Wow. It's because we're speaking backwards. That's what Aleister knew. Aleister Crowley would have known.
Like, who would design a language backwards?
I don't know. Who would spray metals in the air? I don't
know.
Go.
I'm like, you just opened that.
Who would stick, metals into babies? Same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're being duped here. We're being absolutely deceived on so many levels. It's incredible, including English. And you'll notice English is the prime, pretty much the prime language now, but it's backwards.
And what is the fallout from that? The impact? Like, what does that?
Well, like you said, the truth comes the other way. Well, we don't know what we're saying when we're speaking in this direction, but the universe picks up the backwards one, or what we would call backwards, but the forward one. Well, and so they've got us saying things and repeating things, and we don't know exactly what we're saying because we're hearing it in the wrong direction.
Okay, so and that was an interesting concept too, Mandy, was the idea that reading from right to left is better. Like, how is it better, and what are the impacts of that?
Yeah, well, you guys have given the history, which is amazing that you've updated me. I can only just give you the neurological. So probably before I dive into the neurological, I told Cal the story. I was at a conference and I was talking, and so someone came up and they wanted to read the books. As fate would have it, the woman that came up was an English professor at one of these local state universities, and she was so interested in reading the book. So she picked it up. And so this is the book now that's going backwards, right? And or now the correct way, right to left. And she's standing there, and while she's this grossly overweight man comes to me battling to speak, said to me he's been in a horrific accident, his brain isn't there, he's so battling, and I don't know what possessed me. I said, well, it's just you can do something, try and read this book. And he takes the book and he just starts breezing through the book while the English professor is still on the first page. And I literally started crying because it just showed me that this book is not actually only obviously I'm attracting the people that want to be the speed readers and the photographic memory, but it's actually really for the people that are supposedly brain injured. And, you know, I mentioned in the beginning of this that my oldest was vaccine injured. And so that's what led me on this course. He's now 20. And I just attacked it full force because I wasn't going to have a child that we actually thought, first of all, that he was going to die that night. And then whose report will you believe? I wasn't going to believe any of the reports of the doctors. I was going to have a normal child. But fast forward, after employing all these strategies, 20 years, he got 15 scholarship offers and graduated with a 4.5 GPA. And then said no to the Ivy Leagues and decided to play football. But this is how the course can work for you and for your child. And the children that I had in my class, I can promise you, if they had gone to a regular institution, they would all be on ADHD medication. So there is a theory here of why it works. And I'm sorry, I just kind of backtracked to give you my history of how it works.
That's okay.
But yeah, so neurologically, the brain actually, when a child is born, well, I'll throw in another thing from heart math. When the child is in the embryo, it's the heart that starts functioning first. Those are the first neurons. And then from there, the brain develops. So my website, which is buildyourbrains.com, is kind of pointing at that finger, because a lot of this education starts with the brain in the heart before the brain in the head. So, you know, you were asking, well, why would we learn English backwards? Why would they change the music from to a 432 hertz? Because actually alpha brainwave stage is the easiest way to get into photographic memory. And the other thing is, this is why I was so against the cell towers. Why would they, out of all the frequencies in the world, why would they put your cell phone at the same alpha brainwave frequency? And these kids are sitting in class trying to concentrate, and their cell phone is fighting with their brain the whole time. Mm-hmm. So it's just a nightmare from beginning to end. But anyway, neurologically, it is easier for people who know how to meditate, or who, if they can't, then just listen to alpha brainwave music, and that can shove them into the right brain. But actually, children up until the age of 3, the brain development starts at the back with the pons, and it moves forward. So the prefrontal cortex isn't even developed till about the age of 8 to 10. So if you give me, the younger the child, the easier it is for me, because I'm not battling with the left and the logic. I'm just shoving information into the hard drive, and that stays there. And we have a whole method that I teach at the school. Like, basically, the brain can only retain information, short-term memory, for 24 hours. So we repeat the information 3 times within a 24-hour period, then once the day after, then once a week after, once a month after, and then once a year after, and then that information will not be lost. So that's kind of the platform. Plus that the brain can really only concentrate and focus for 20 minutes. So our school day was 20 minutes on and 10 minutes to 15 minutes of cross-patterning exercises. Sorry, that's me. So yeah, cross-patterning is very important because it gets the brain activated, and you can get to speak to both sides of the brain as well.
Wow. So
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
So your son was actually very injured though, Mandy, right?
Yeah, no, he was. And
Like, I think people should understand, if if you're willing to say what it was like.
well, I mean, yeah, how much detail do we want to go into?
Well, I think when you look at where he is now at 20 with a over a 4.0 GPA,
Yeah,
and yeah, and then he's also a top athlete. Um, it's astounding well, when people see where he was at as a baby and as a child, you would think that's never going to happen. Like that's just not in the realm of possibilities.
well, they have that saying, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. And I just took that as like, hell hath no fury like a mother's scorn, because I was not going to take that label that they were putting on my child. And I have to give a shout out, because it's called the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential. They were the people that got me on track. They're out in Philadelphia. I don't even know if they're around anymore, but they literally got blind kids to see, deaf kids to hear, dumb kids to talk, only by repatterning the brain on the same logic. So I can't say I did all that research. Glenn Doman, who's now passed, was the originator of that school. And they've done amazing stories. They're actually bigger in Brazil now, of course, than they are in the US. Isn't that the usual story? But they've got Down syndrome kids that have PhDs. And that's all through neuroplasticity. So we've been sold a lie again, as you said, just from the English language and now to how the brain works, is that, I don't even want to get started on the third. You see, I called it brains. So there are three brains that come into account. And actually, I'm writing a book on the fourth brain, because the pineal gland is very important in the way that I teach the school, because you have to get into an alpha brainwave state. They do exercises. When I say the cross patterning, we work on the peripheral vision, because to be a speed reader, you need to look on the outside, which is very different to phonetics, where you're focused inward, right? I mean, it's just completely the antithesis of the way we've been taught. We also work with the rods and cones in the retinas, because we have to see different colors, and often kids will come in and are colorblind. Everything is correctable, but yet we've been taught it isn't. I mean, I had a child come in and she's wearing a patch on her eye. And I said to the mom, what's going on? Oh, no, we've been to the doctor and she's got a lazy eye. So I mean, I don't even know why I bothered asking the question, but I did. So I said, well, which eye is lazy? And she says the one that's not covered up. So I said, wait, so you're making the good eye become like the lazy eye? Is that what you're doing? And she was like, oh, I never thought about it, but yeah, that's what the doctors told me. Instead of strengthening the bad eye to get it to the good eye, they're weakening the good eye. And I'm like, what? This is what we're dealing with, when everything is correctable.
Well,
Sorry.
I mean, I've heard stories where like somebody's got 80 or 90% of their brain missing.
Yes.
For whatever reason, and yet they're fully functional, high achieving academically and all sorts of stuff.
Well,
so
there's
exactly to that. Yeah.
There's so many neurological studies that have done, like my favorite is, if you talk about the cab drivers in the UK, they have a special exam that they have to write, where they're not allowed to use GPS or maps, Google Maps or anything like that. And they have to memorize all the streets in London. Well, then they went and analyzed their brain, and how you analyze a brain for intelligence is not the size of the brain. Like, even with Einstein, it's how deep the crevices are. And so there literally is an increase in their brain activity just from studying that and the depth of the crevices. So yeah, there's that. I mean, the blind people, how they get around, it's a big misnomer that we've been taught, that you need all your senses. It's actually the brain finds ways. I mean, how about one of my friends who's a doctor was paralyzed, and she learned to walk again by repatterning her brain. This is all we're doing in the school. Is I'm giving them the methodology, just basic things like I told you, alpha brainwave state. The kids are not allowed sugar. They have to have 8 hours of sleep. We have no cell phones in the school. All the basic stuff that people don't even know about. And then on top of that, we give them the tools, like you can only focus for 20 minutes. And then when we have to memorize things, we move, because your brain doesn't only take in the desk. It remembers the smell or the scent of the flower. And so you shift things. It's actually, we're dumbing ourselves down by sitting in front of a desk and putting a white piece of paper and telling us to read and learn it. And then we're wondering why our kids are failing.
So, okay, so I was taught phonetically how to read.
So was I. Yeah.
And it worked. And I can still read.
But that's not the point, right?
So, and then a few years ago, I heard that, at least in Ontario, they were using something called whole language or method of teaching reading, which sounds like, you know, what you're describing, the way you're teaching it.
Whole language.
I didn't really look in too much depth, but it sounds like what this whole language thing was. And I thought, well, that's, you know, and I'm paranoid and a conspiracy theorist. So I was thinking that, they're just trying to, dumb the kids down using a method that doesn't really teach them how to read. Right. But, and so I'm just interested in following.
Yeah. No, prod the bear. I love it. I'd love to do that. No, actually, in actual fact, the point is exactly what I said. We're sitting in front of a desk with a white piece of paper. It's the same thing. We've been taught your brain can only comprehend this much, so we're going to teach it this way. But it's not. I mean, why? Look at the Renaissance. You know, we've brought up Da Vinci. Look at all these people who were not taught in a schoolroom who are more brilliant. We're going back to their theories now and realizing, okay, finally neuroscience has proven that what they discovered 700 years ago without a microscope is true. So honestly, the whole of Asia learns this way, by the way. I would love to say I'm the one who takes it, but there are these photographic memory schools on every street corner. I actually went over there to go and get curriculum, particularly in Japan and Hong Kong. So what I call quantum math is literally teaching the kids how to learn on they call it a soroban or an abacus, and a particular type. So again, the kids that came in only knew that 2 + 2 is 4. They had no idea of quantity recognition. So now we've picked apart speed reading. You know, you can go into the quantum math, but these are things that have been learned over thousands of years, the abacus. And the same with the speed reading. When you look at that, look, they learn in hieroglyphics. That's why I said at my school we were going to teach Mandarin or we were going to teach Hebrew. Obviously, I'm bent like Cal. I want to read the original Torah and understand the words. So why not teach these kids Hebrew? So there's, sorry, I get really passionate and carried away about the kind of conspiracy theories. But it's not a new thing. It's been around for forever. We've just been sideswiped to look at something that is better. But if you just Google right brain education or the soroban or abacus or any of this stuff, the one thing that I haven't found is speed reading for children. So that's where I keep reverting to Tony Bazan, because he did his bachelor's course. I think it was ridiculous, in like 3 to 6 months, just because he could speed read like that. So why not relearn? I've had to teach myself, and it's really hard. And you see these 5-year-olds just whizzing through, you know.
Okay, well, I got a lot of questions still.